Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, joining us now live. Good morning, Mr. Speaker. So the House Republicans, you guys did your job. You passed the measure to keep the government funded. That couldn't have been easy because it was the Biden-Pelosi budget, but you got it done, and Democrats refused to give an inch. How do we get out of this?
Well, I tell you what, if the government shuts down at midnight tonight, it's because one person made that decision. His name's Chuck Schumer. He's the Democrat leader in the Senate, because we did pass it out of the House. Now, why did we do that? You're right. We're not in love with these policies, but this is a very temporary, short-term, clean, continuing resolution to keep the government open until November 21st. Why do we do that? Because we've been working really hard here to rebuild the muscle memory for how the appropriations process is supposed to work in Congress. To be a good steward of American taxpayer treasure, what we're supposed to do here is 12 separate appropriations bills every year, right, where they're debated and there's lots of dialogue and arm wrestling over it to make the best and most efficient use of taxpayer dollars. The problem is that system hasn't been working that way for a long time. So for the first time in years, we've done it. The House Appropriations Committee, led by Republicans, of course, passed 12 separate appropriations bills to fix all this through committee. 3 of them passed off the House floor. The Senate passed 3 bills. Well, they don't match exactly. So if everybody remembers from civics class the way that's supposed to work then, you get a conference committee between the House and the Senate, they work through their differences. Okay, all that's happening right now, and that's a great thing for taxpayers, a great thing for our fiscal conservative policies and principles. But we run out of clock because today is the end of the fiscal year. So what we did as the majority, the responsible thing, is we passed a very clean CR to just give us 7 more weeks to finish the process I just described. The Democrats have thrown a fit. They won't go along with it, even though they did it 13 times during the Biden administration, okay? They won't go along with it now. Why? Because they want to add, as you noted, $1.5 trillion in new spending to a 7-week stopgap funding measure. And they want to restore American taxpayer benefits to illegal aliens. That is what they're demanding in exchange for their votes. They also want to claw back the $50 billion that Republicans passed to prop up our rural hospitals in red states. They don't like that. They're trying to claw it back. They want to add, you're going to love this, they want $500 million, this is part of their demand, to go back and prop up the Corporation for Public Broadcasting again, NPR and PBS, that are just, indoctrinating people and totally biased news coverage. We defunded all that in our big, beautiful bill. They want to add it back. That's their demands. $1.5 trillion new dollars in spending. We're not doing that, and they know that, and they're playing politics. And I'll tell you, this all comes down to one thing. Chuck Schumer is doing this for political cover, okay? He knows the pain that it will inflict upon the American people. Troops not being paid, TSA agents not being paid, FEMA services not being available during hurricane season, the food and nutrition assistance programs that so many women and infants and children rely upon will be shut down, cut off. It just goes on and on, but he's willing to do that because he's running from AOC and the far left corners of their base.
Absolutely.
Because they told him he has to fight Trump. That's what this is, plain and simple.
Yeah, going against Trump. Mr. Speaker, you brought up the cuts to rural hospitals, but yet Hakeem Jeffries, Bernie Sanders, everyone has been on X saying, well, Republicans want to cut, they want to cut health care. It's their fault. Can you just explain, because that seems to be the talking point for all of these Democrats, especially if you go on some of these networks, they're blaming Republicans for everything.
Yes, because they got in a back room and they decided that would be smart political strategy. It is not based on the facts. They're claiming that we gutted health care because we made reforms to Medicaid. You know what we did in the big, beautiful bill? We kicked able-bodied young men off of Medicaid. They should have never been in there in the first place. Medicaid is a temporary assistance that provided for young single mothers down on their luck, for the disabled and the elderly. We had young men playing video games all day, riding the wagon. That's disgusting, and our bill fixed that. Guess who came out just 3 or 4 weeks ago? The CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office that the Democrats love to cite all the time. They came out and said the Republicans were right. They have cut premiums in health care. Why? Because they got ineligible recipients off of Medicaid, and they cut out their fraud, waste, and abuse. $185 billion already. So our programs and our reforms were to fix and save Medicaid for the people it's actually intended for. And Democrats hate that. So they're using it as a talking point. That's a red herring. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the temporary funding measure, again, just to keep the government open. Our CR is clean. It's only 24 pages in length. There's no partisan riders. We could have loaded it up with all sorts of Republican priorities. We didn't do that because we're trying to do the right thing to keep the government open so we can have those thoughtful debates. Democrats they're doing this for one thing. Listen, every single one of them have said their entire career. I've got a highlight reel on my social media of all them in their own words saying that shutdowns are terrible, they're disastrous, it would inflict such harm on the American people, and suddenly, all of a sudden, they've changed it. No, don't buy it. They're running from their socialist, radical, Marxist base, and they're going to hurt the American people because of it. And it's just totally reckless. I can hardly believe that they're going to do it.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I know so many people, and we've had some on this morning, they're tired of every 6 months, every 3 months, we have to face another government shutdown over one thing or another. And as you alluded to it earlier, I went and looked it up. Congress has not passed the budget or the appropriations bills on time before the deadline since 1997, so 20 years nearly.
Yep.
Do you think it's time for the Senate to maybe consider eliminating the filibuster for, say, continuing resolutions? So if you have to get to this point, it just takes the 50, like you do for judges in the Supreme Court. If we're not making any substantive changes, just keep it going. We can do that with 50.
Yeah, look, I think desperate times call for desperate measures. I mentioned at the outset, we have been working to rebuild the muscle memory to get Congress back to the way it's supposed to work. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. But we've made some gradual improvements on that. And I mean, it sounds like a small thing, but it's a big thing here that the appropriators actually have done the work, gotten the work done, gotten the bills through committee, and many of them off the floor already. We have to continue that process because that's how we get back to sound stewardship. In the interim, there's some ideas on the table. Ron Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson, and Rep. Dusty Johnson over here, Johnson & Johnson, have an idea on the table to eliminate shutdowns, to take that effectively metaphorical gun out of the hands of the minority party so that real Americans aren't harmed when we're having partisan squabbles right now. I mean, there's some good ideas on the table on how to fix it, and we need to carefully consider those things. But this is no way to run a railroad, and I'm telling you, the Democrats are making a major mistake here, and real people are going to be harmed because of it, and I just think it's shameful.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, you were in a meeting yesterday with the president and with Chuck Schumer, with Hakeem Jeffries. And Chuck Schumer said that in that meeting, there were aspects of health care ending for certain people that the president was, quote, learning for the first time. Now, what's he talking about there?
Nonsense. I know it's shocking, but Chuck Schumer doesn't always tell the truth, okay? We had a thoughtful discussion in the Oval Office. Credit to President Trump showing strong leadership. He's operating 100% in good faith, and he demonstrated that by bringing us in. And he heard the arguments, and he just looked at Schumer and Hakeem, and he said, why are you even bringing this up right now? See, they're trying to make this Obamacare subsidy issue the issue of today. It's not. The issue they're talking about doesn't even expire until December 31st, okay? That's an eternity in politics for us to get in and roll up our sleeves and argue and debate over all that, and we're going to have to. But they're trying to say that is somehow the issue of today. They just made it up. It's just not true. So the president was as curious as Leader Thune and I were about that. What the heck are you talking about? That's not even an issue for today. They know it. They know that. In their heart of hearts, they know that they're looking at the cameras and lying about it. And I hate to say that, but it's just the facts are the facts. And everybody can see this for themselves. Go look at the counterproposal that Chuck Schumer put on the table for the CR. It's loaded up with all these partisan, crazy wish lists. We're not doing that. They know we're not doing that. He's trying to give himself cover at any price, and it's really sad.
Mr. Speaker, real quick, I know we have to let you go. Would you be willing to commit to at least negotiating and talking about the Obamacare subsidies, at least some of them, not for the ones of people making $500,000 a year that get any subsidies, but at least some of those for the most needy, if that helped move the Senate forward to getting this budget solved before the deadline?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it came up in the Oval Office yesterday, and Leader Thune looked Chuck Schumer, his colleague, right in the eye and said, Chuck, there has to be real modifications to that because it doesn't work. It's a boondoggle. It's subsidizing insurance companies, and you're right, no income limits. Somebody can make $550,000 a year, and taxpayers are funding their health care. I mean, it's wrong. There's lots of, we're concerned about the lack of Hyde protections in those provisions. Taxpayer funding is not supposed to support abortion, all those things. But we need a month or two, obviously, to hash all that out. It's not going to happen today. They know it wouldn't happen today, and it's not supposed to. We have time to do that. And for them to cling to that and make that the talking point is just disingenuous. And they know it. They know that.
Yep.
And that's what's so frustrating about it.
All right, Speaker Mike Johnson, thank you. I know you're very busy today. Thank you for joining us here on Wake Up America, and you're welcome anytime to come back.
Thank you, sir.
Hope you get it done soon.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Information. Truth. is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.